Everyone wants some hope and wants some optimism, and I think the Earthshock encompasses urgent optimism.
At exactly 6 p.m, the royal family issued a statement. No fanfare, no leaked headlines, just a quiet post on their website. A formal announcement will be made this evening. No names, no explanation, and that was all it took. Within minutes, the UK came to a standstill. Was the king abdicating? Was Camilla ill? Was it another royal scandal buried beneath years of silence? Reporters crowded outside palace gates. News anchors stalled for airtime. Twitter exploded with conspiracy theories, but no one was ready for what actually happened. It wasn't King Charles, it wasn't Queen Camilla, it was William and Kate standing alone in a dimly lit room. No throne, no gold, no titles. And in under 10 minutes, they changed the monarchy forever. This wasn't just an announcement, it was a shakeup. The video wasn't polished like a royal broadcast. There were no velvet curtains, no orchestra swelling in the background, just William and Kate, side by side, somber and unflinchingly direct. William spoke first. His voice was calm, but it carried the weight of something bigger than tradition. The monarchy is not merely a symbol, it's a responsibility, and in times of change, we must evaluate whether we are still serving the people or just the institution. No palace-approved script, no carefully crafted press statement. This wasn't business as usual, it was personal. Then Kate spoke, and her tone controlled, measured, but unmistakably sharp. It is not about titles or traditions, it is about trust, and it is time to honor the past while creating a future that reflects the society we live in today. With those words, the atmosphere shifted. Viewers didn't just hear the message, they felt it. This wasn't a press release, this was a declaration. And within seconds, the headlines wrote themselves. William and Kate declare new direction for the monarchy, a soft rebellion inside Kensington Palace. The future of the crown begins now. But the most powerful shock wasn't what they said, it was what they unveiled next. Because this wasn't just about leadership or image, it was about reclaiming a legacy that the crown tried to bury. And what Kate revealed would send shockwaves straight through the palace gates. Kate didn't just speak for the institution, she spoke for the ghost in the room, and her name was Diana. With quiet resolve, Kate unveiled the initiative that would redefine her role and resurrect a legacy the royal family had long tried to contain. Diana's story didn't end with her passing, she said. It lives on in every person who believes kindness is strength, who refuses to be silenced, and who dares to care in a world that rewards coldness. It was more than a tribute. It was a reclamation. The Diana Initiative wasn't just another royal foundation. It was a global non-profit dedicated to carrying forward Princess Diana's mission: compassion without condition, advocacy without permission, truth without apology. And Kate, she wasn't just supporting it, she was leading it. She would meet with survivors of abuse. She would speak on behalf of displaced families. She would ensure that Diana's voice was no longer edited out of the royal narrative. For decades, the monarchy had tried to move on from Diana, not by healing the wound, but by pretending it wasn't there. And now, the woman most closely compared to her had pulled it back into the spotlight on purpose. The public instantly felt the emotional weight. This wasn't just royal duty, it was justice in motion. It wasn't soft, it was seismic. And inside Buckingham Palace, it wasn't applause that echoed through the halls, it was silence. Because reclaiming Diana's memory wasn't just a heartfelt gesture, it was a direct challenge to the very people who had rewritten her story. When the video ended, there were no immediate royal responses, no congratulatory tweets, no reposts from official palace accounts, no family photo to show unity, just silence. And in royal language, silence is never empty. It's a message. Behind the walls of Clarence House, King Charles reportedly watched the announcement live. His reaction? Just 3 words. What did they do? He wasn't confused. He was stunned. William, his heir, had just made a bold declaration on behalf of the monarchy without his blessing, without coordination, without tradition. He didn't defer to his father's crown. He bypassed it, and that wasn't just rare. It was unthinkable. But Queen Camilla's reaction? That wasn't silence. It was fury. Sources close to the palace say she saw the announcement not just as defiance, but as an attack. A strategic, emotional play that reawakened the public's affection for a figure she had spent decades trying to outshine. Kate's revival of Diana's legacy was powerful, but to Camilla, she's trying to make Diana queen from beyond the grave. Those words, overheard by a palace aide, echoed through royal corridors like a thunderclap. For years, Camilla had carefully rebuilt her image. From the other woman to queen consort, it had taken silence, patience, and perfectly controlled appearances. But in less than 10 minutes, Kate had undone it all, without even saying Camilla's name. The monarchy's old guard felt it instantly. This wasn't just a speech, it was a shift in power, and it didn't ask permission. This wasn't a one-off speech, it was a strategy. William and Kate unveiled what commentators quickly dubbed the modern monarchy blueprint, a 3-part plan that would quietly quietly dismantle centuries of royal detachment and replace it with something the public hadn't seen in generations: direct leadership. William didn't sugarcoat it. We cannot serve modern people with outdated principles. We are choosing to lead with presence, not position. In that single line, he challenged the very heart of royal identity. The blueprint wasn't ceremonial, it was practical. Transparency. Every donation, engagement, and spending decision tied to their charitable efforts would be documented, reviewed, and open to the public. Even independent audits were promised, something no senior royals had ever allowed. Human-centered engagement, ribbon cuttings, and press-heavy appearances would be minimized. Instead, William and Kate would focus on long-term programs: climate resilience, mental health care, maternal wellness, and educational equity. Not buzzwords, real action. Independence from palace control. They would operate outside many traditional royal norms. No more scripted roles, no more waiting for palace approval. Their public service would be self-directed, guided by values, not protocol. For the first time, two senior royals were stepping down from their pedestal so they could serve alongside the people. Kate's part in the announcement made it even more clear. This wasn't about scaling back. It was about showing up fully. And yet, that single decision created a firestorm inside the palace. Because for an institution built on hierarchy, stepping down was the same as stepping out of line. But William and Kate didn't flinch. They weren't rewriting their job description. They were rewriting royalty. And the public, they weren't just watching, they were already following. The day after the announcement, Kate didn't attend a palace banquet. She didn't wave from a balcony. She showed up quietly at a women's shelter in Birmingham. No press release, no camera crew, just Kate, comforting a mother whose home had been destroyed by domestic violence. One staffer captured a photo, Kate holding the woman's hand, tears in both their eyes. It went viral within hours. But that was only the beginning. Days later, she visited a mental health clinic in Manchester. No speech, no grand entrance, just a conversation with young girls recovering from trauma. One of them later told the press, "She didn't talk down to us. She looked us in the eye. Not like a royal, like a friend." This wasn't PR. It wasn't a photo op. It was presence, and it was powerful. When Kate finally did appear on television again, it wasn't through a polished royal broadcast. It was during a town hall in Cardiff, and this time she didn't hold back. We are not here to rule from above. We're here to walk alongside. If we forget that, we are unworthy of the people's trust. The room fell silent, then applause, then a flood of support across social media, newspapers, and communities around the world. That night, one hashtag began trending, hashtag People's Queen. It wasn't just a throwback to Diana, it was a coronation without a crown. Kate Middleton was no longer just the Duchess of Cambridge. She had become something the monarchy couldn't manufacture and couldn't control, a symbol of dignity, a voice for the unheard, a queen chosen not by blood but by love. And across the nation, hearts shifted, not away from the monarchy, but toward a new version of it, a version shaped by empathy. The public response was thunderous, but what happened inside the royal family was quieter and far more telling. Behind palace gates, something subtle but unmistakable began to unfold. Royal staffers, once loyal to the traditional order, started shifting their attention. More meetings were scheduled at Kensington Palace, not Buckingham. Press inquiries began bypassing Charles's media team and going straight to William's. Photographers stopped chasing ceremonial events and started following Kate on her unscheduled visits. There was no official memo, no public declaration of change, but the energy had moved. Young royals felt it too. Princess Beatrice, long caught between royal duty and personal heartbreak, quietly met with William at Frogmore Cottage. Their discussion wasn't about image, it was about purpose. William reportedly told her, "Your status in this family doesn't depend on your silence." He extended the same olive branch to Zara Tindall and even reached out to Princess Eugenie, who had distanced herself in recent years. These weren't reunions for tradition's sake. They were strategic conversations about building a monarchy rooted not in hierarchy but in values. And slowly, a realignment began. Younger royals began scheduling their charitable efforts through Kensington's framework rather than Buckingham's rigid playbook. The Diana Initiative became a hub, a cause, and quietly, a new centre of gravity inside the royal family. It was leadership by example, and it terrified the old guard. Because this wasn't a rebellion with headlines and ultimatums, it was a transfer of influence, disguised as humility. And the more William and Kate refused to take credit for it, the more powerful it became. As Kate rose in the public's eyes, Miller felt something years: honorability. For decades, she reframed her image, scandal to soft power, woman to queen consort. She aligned her causes, domestic violence prevention, literacy, always careful, always calculated. But nothing prepared her for this. Because Kate didn't just bring back Diana's memory, she weaponized it with grace, and Camilla could feel the tide turning. Behind closed doors, she demanded a meeting with senior staff. According to leaked notes, her tone was sharp, her message clear. The narrative has slipped. We need to bring Kate's initiative under palace supervision immediately. She wanted the Diana initiative folded into the official royal foundation. That way, it could be monitored, controlled. But Charles? He hesitated, not because he supported the move, but because he saw the danger. Any attempt to box in William and Kate now would come across as petty, insecure, or worse, jealous. His advisors warned him plainly, the public already sees her as the queen in waiting. Don't fight the future, you'll only lose faster. Still, the silence stung. Charles hadn't approved the announcement, he hadn't shaped the rollout, and now he was being written out of the very institution he had waited a lifetime to lead. In private, he reportedly confided to aides, "I waited my whole life for this, and the spotlight is already gone." This wasn't resentment toward William, not exactly. It was grief for a reign that felt over before it ever truly began, for a crown that came too late, for a legacy now overshadowed by something more magnetic and more beloved. Kate didn't ask for this shift, she simply earned it, and Charles, for all his titles, was left with a sinking realization. The people weren't looking to the throne anymore, they were looking at her. William had always been the heir, but in the days after the announcement, he became something far more dangerous to the palace establishment, a leader with nothing to prove and everything to protect. He didn't ask for permission. He didn't hold a press conference to explain himself. He simply moved forward. Sources say he rejected several internal proposals to reunify the public narrative under Buckingham Palace. He refused to let the Diana initiative be merged into the official royal foundation. And he made one thing clear, this wasn't a discussion, this was direction. But the coldness from his father and Camilla, that hurt. Behind the scenes, William reportedly confided in an aide, "I'm not concerned. This isn't rebellion, it's repair. I won't inherit a house built on silence. I'd rather rebuild it than rule it." And that's what he began doing, rebuilding. Not just the monarchy's image, but its moral foundation. His meetings with younger royals weren't casual, they were intentional. He knew that the crown, if it were to survive, couldn't be a birthright. It had to be earned. Legacy over lineage, purpose over protocol. And while the traditionalists whispered about Kate becoming too independent, William saw the opposite. He saw clarity, direction, strength. For the first time in decades, the monarchy wasn't hiding behind press releases or outdated customs. It was facing forward, led by a woman who didn't need a crown to be respected, and a man who was willing to step aside, not in power, but in ego. That subtle shift, that's what real revolutions look like in monarchies. Not violent, not loud, but inevitable. And in that moment, something became clear to the nation, to the palace, and even to history itself. The future of the crown wouldn't belong to whoever wore it next. It would belong to whoever earned it. When the palace first hinted at a major royal announcement, the world expected more of the same. A ceremonial gesture, a rehearsed speech, another attempt to stay relevant without getting too real. Instead, they got truth. They got William and Kate, not draped in velvet or flanked by formality, but standing side by side, rewriting royalty with soft voices and unshakable clarity. Kate didn't ask for power. She didn't wear the crown, but she stepped into something far greater, public trust. She resurrected Diana's legacy, not as nostalgia, but as a mission. She looked into the eyes of survivors, sat beside women society forgot, and showed up, not as royalty, but as a human being. And William, he did what no king in recent memory has dared to do. He let the woman beside him rise, not behind him, not beneath him, beside him. That choice, quiet, elegant, radical, may go down as the most important decision of his future reign. Because while King Charles wears the crown and Camilla holds the throne, the heartbeat of the monarchy, it has already moved, not to a palace, but to a people. And at the center of that shift stands a woman who speaks softly, walks boldly, and reminds the world that leadership isn't about being served, it's about serving. The monarchy didn't fall that day. It began to heal. And if you believe in stories that matter, in power that listens, and in royalty that earns its place, hit that like button, subscribe for more untold truths behind the crown, and join us as we follow the leaders shaping the future, not by title, but by heart.